And we're pleased to welcome now Marie Sanderson, Republican Governors Association and a GOP strategist, former policy director, of the Republican Governors Association, former in that respect, but still highly involved as a GOP strategist. Hey, Marie, how you doing?
Hey, Gerard, I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. So I've seen you on social media. Where you been? You've been in the heart of it, hadn't you?
No, I had an opportunity to go down to Palm Beach leading up to the election and election night, and what an experience it was to be down there with the festivities.
Incredible. Well, I know lots of smiling, happy faces for sure. Were you surprised, Marie, at the outcome?
No, I wasn't surprised at all. Like I told you, leading up to the election on your show the week prior, we were feeling really good about what we were seeing with the electorate. The top two issues that mattered to the electorate were the economy and immigration. Trump led on those issues by far, and we saw a lot of that in the exit data and the exit polls. And as we continue to analyze what happened Tuesday night, I think we're seeing that those issues, among others, really resonated with voters among all ages, across genders, across geographic groups. They were very important issues to people.
You know, we were talking earlier, Marie, also the votes by income range flipped somewhat from 20 to 24. A lot of folks who make less than $50,000 a year broke for Trump considerably over Kamala Harris relative to how they voted in the 2020 cycle. And you made a great point that Mr. Trump led on those key critical issues, but I would say more importantly, he talked about them everywhere he went. He discussed that. He understood. I feel your plight. I feel your pain. They broke it. I'm going to fix it. I just don't feel like that Kamala Harris even discussed those critical issues that much in her campaigning.
No, I think that is another story from the campaign. President Trump is an excellent communicator. He is able to break through the noise and communicate what he believes, albeit direct sometimes, but you know where he stands. And he's an effective communicator, and we see that. I think they're also analyzing how money was spent. The GOP and the Trump campaign used a number of ways to get their message out. They were very effective in going on podcasts like your own to talk to different people who had insight into what these various groups wanted to hear, what was on their mind, and how to message what a Republican presidency, what a Trump presidency would do for them. And we're seeing that was extremely effective. Sure, it's important to go knock on doors and to ask your neighbors to go vote, which the Democrats do really well. I would argue Republicans did that really well this time. We talked about that last week, too, on your show. But Republicans were very effective in communicating, and President Trump is the master in achieving that.
Do you think the Democrat Party was instructed and informed by the outcome to the point here that they may pivot and may change their strategy, may change their agenda?
I think it's a wake-up call for how to deal with Americans across the board. The Democrats have been messaging greatly to very woke issues, issues that I would argue do not matter to a lot of Americans, the working poor. Sure, there's a lot of talk about the elites, the liberal elites, and that they have control over the party and they've forgotten the working man. Sure, I think they're looking at that. Certainly they did well with women, but I think President Trump did better with women than they expected him to do. So, and younger Americans, let's talk about the younger generation that voted for President Trump. 90% of counties, I'm going to say that number again, 90% of counties voted more for Trump this time than they did last time. That's a significant increase when you're looking at the United States. It wasn't just urban areas, it wasn't rural areas, it wasn't East Coast, West Coast. 90% of counties increased their vote for Trump this time.
Yeah. It sure was a wake-up call, you would think, and there lots of finger pointing, and now the blame game seems to kicked in. Many in the media are saying that Joe Biden should have exited the race earlier, which would have given the vice president more time to campaign. Do you expect that blame game narrative is going to continue from within the ranks of the Democrats?
No, I think the American people voted against Biden Harris. They voted against liberal policies. Sure, she would have had more time to communicate her own vision, but she's tied to Biden's vision, to a Democrat vision, because that's what she articulated even in her 100-day sprint. What the American people care about is the economy, is their pocketbook, it's immigration, legal immigration, it's culture issues. Sure, the woke agenda, it's what their kids are being taught in school. American people care about that. And the Harris campaign did very little to show the American people that they were listening. It was optimistic. They tried to discredit Trump's character over and over again. And I think what you're finding is the American people know who Trump is. He was president for 4 years. As they got to know her, and they got to know her as we got closer to the election, they decided that they'd rather vote for President Trump and his vision than her vision.
It felt like, and I know we talked about this when you were on earlier, but the more time she had to get in front of the American voter in the various interviews, if you could call them that, and her rallies, it seemed like that her stock actually declined, that it showed that she was kind of shallow and somewhat unqualified.
Definitely was a crossroads between trying to defend who she wants to be versus who she was. She was stuck trying to move towards the middle with very much on the record policy positions from when she ran the first time that were too liberal for the American public. My former boss, and I know you've had him on a show, Governor Haley Barbour, likes to say that the United States is really a center right country, just of center, center, but maybe slightly center right. And if you give them the option and a vision and someone they can get behind, they tend to vote that way. And I think what the Harris campaign did, they never moved her towards the middle enough. Certainly, that is policy, but also the way you communicate to your voters. And they failed in that regard.
Well, left, it seems, Marie, these days in this country is only as far left. There is no center left faction anymore. It seems like you're either way out there to the left or you're really to the right, which could actually put you somewhat moderate, slightly left relative to the leftism of current day Democrats.
That's true. The progressive side of the Democrat Party is certainly the most vocal. You have Governor, then Senator, but now retired, Manchin in West Virginia, who felt like the Senate was no longer a place where he could be productive. And he was a blue dog Democrat that worked across the aisle and felt like he didn't have a home. I mean, certainly we see that in our own state where the Republican Party is the preferred party for so many elected officials because they identify more with where Republicans are on policy matters. But certainly, I think the left is pushing or the progressives are pushing the left more and more to those fringe issues. And they failed again to move towards the middle. But again, I think it's how they communicated. I'm not sure that Harris was an effective communicator about what their vision would be if they had had a vision to articulate.
Yep. Mr. Trump, I'm sure, is huddled up with his inner circle working on cabinet picks. You think?
Absolutely. I think they are going to be very organized. I said that last time. I think he will be announcing his top picks here in the near future. And I believe he will be very organized. They learned a lot from 2016. I don't know if you remember, but there were efforts to block his nominees. It took way longer than it should have compared to past presidents to get his cabinet approved, which is a failure in governing by the Senate. You won't see that this time, but the Trump administration is not going to waste any time deciding what they're going to do and how they're going to implement it. You have other
Yeah.
experts at the table, Elon Musk, who will have top roles in the Efficiency Commission. And I think we will see them swiftly put out an agenda and work with the Congress. Now, looks like a Republican House as well, to implement their vision for the country.
Yeah, and there are going to be no excuses, as you know, when we got all three governing bodies, if you will, the House, the Senate, and the White House. So, Marie, really appreciate you calling in. Enjoyed the discussion. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
You bet. Folks, we're stepping aside for a break. Once again, we're at 2 Mississippi museums, and we're coming right back.